Oceania Hundoke. Today is Ahn Shi Il, and I'll be presenting today's message. And today is Saturday, the 19th of October, 2024, or the 17th of September in the 12th year of Chong Il Guk. So thank you all for coming, and let's begin with a bow to our true parents of heaven, earth, and humankind. Chanji Jampuninge, Kyombe, Paro. And let's recite our family pledge, both in Korean and English.
가전맨세 2. 전일국 주인 우리 가족은 참 사랑을 중심하고 한일 부모님과 참 부모님을 모시어 전주의 대표적 가정이 되며 중심적 가정이 되어 가정에서는 효자, 국가에서는 춘신, 세계에서는 성인, 전주에서는 선자의 가정의 도리를 완성할 것을 맹세하나이다.
Family pledge number 2. Our family, the owner of Chong Il Guk, pledges to represent and become central to heaven and earth by attending the heavenly parent and true parents. We pledge to perfect the dutiful family way of filial sons and daughters in our family, patriots in our nation, saints in the world, and divine sons and daughters in heaven and on earth by centering on true love. Thank you. I'd like to ask Na if she can offer the opening prayer, please.
Let's pray. Beloved Heavenly Parents, victorious true parents, thank you for this new day. Thank you. We cannot wait to greet you, to greet one another, and Father, to understand your heart, to comfort you, and to do as much as we can to bring about your kingdom here on earth. Heavenly Parent, thank you for all, Father, our leaders and our members throughout the world who are working really hard, Father, to bring victory, Father, for you. And thank you for our true parents, for their lives who dedicated to bringing about your kingdom, Father. And of course, at this time, we are praying really hard for the unification of North and South Korea. And we pray for the conflicts in the world today, Father, that it can be healed or restored. Heavenly Father, we pray that all people can know you, know your will. Heavenly Parent, thank you so much for your grace, for your blessing upon us, and for having such a blessing through our great works. Heavenly Father, thank you. I pray that you can speak through Rev John this morning, and that we may, Father, open our hearts to you, Father, to hear your message. Thank you. I report this prayer in my name. Ngā tamariki, blessed central family. Aju.
Thank you. Thank you, and thank you all. So I'll just share the screen again with my message. Okay, so thank you all. So today I'd like to share a message from Chambumo Gyong. This is Book 3, The Beginning of True Father's Public course and the founding of HSAUWC. Chapter 2, True Father's Journey to South Korea and his course in Busan. And Section 3, Wuli Wombong. So this is a message that explains in Father's words about the writing of the first manuscript. So as a background, and the background is also found in the same book. So it explains like this. On May 11, 1951, True Father began writing Wuli Wombong, the original text of the Divine Principle. He completed it on May 10th of the following year. He wrote so fast that the disciple who was living with him was constantly sharpening pencils in order to keep pace with him. While writing the first manuscript of the Principle, he tearfully sang hymns and prayed. Sometimes he climbed to a small outcrop on the mountain behind his cardboard hut to sing and meditate. Then he returned and devoted all of his heart and soul to his writing. The manuscript of Wuli Wombong consists of 5 volumes. Each volume was drilled with 4 holes and tied. The entire manuscript has more than 690 pages. The text is written with a pencil from left to right in cursive script in both Korean and Chinese characters. The revision work was done using pens with black, blue, and brown ink. Red-colored pencils were used to highlight, to lightly underline text. Interestingly, in the 10 pages in the middle, pages 291 to 300, the text is written in blue ink. Wuli Wombong has great significance in that it was written in True Father's own handwriting. It is the earliest manuscript of the Divine Principle in existence. In the early days of the church, some of his disciples transcribed Wuli Wombong and shared their copies with others, passing them around. So this gives a little bit of a background to Father writing the Wuli Wombong, and people did try to transcribe it, or as it says at the end, and then share their copies with others. So let's begin. So God's authorization. When I teach about the principle, I do not refer only to the Bible. Much of its content is not directly from the Bible. I received most of it directly from God. Jesus did not personally write the Bible. The New Testament was compiled by his apostles. The truth must be kept as the truth. Your own theological view or theory must not be added. Did God authorize you to do so? I am asking you, are you approved to add your own theory to the truth? I never presented anything that was not approved by God. I first lived it and then I presented it to the world. There is no question about it. That is why it will not perish. So Father is starting to explain about the process involved in writing the Wuli Wombong, and he explains that this is basically coming directly. As I said, I received most of it directly from God. And then he highlights the fact, well, it's Jesus didn't write the Bible, other people did. But in in this case, Father is writing a divine principle, and it directly comes from God. And so the truth must be kept as the truth. So this is, Father explaining to us that, he's not making up his own theory. He never presented anything that was not approved by God. And so he's explaining to us that what the Wuli Wombong is, it's something that God has approved, and he's writing it. So when I was living in Myeongdong, Busan, I did not even have decent clothes to wear. I had bushy hair and lived with a young man, Kim Won-pil, in a cave-like shack. When others looked at us, they must have felt pity for us. One day, Kim Won-pil said he would work to make money, and I said it was okay. At that time, when I was writing Wuli Wombong, the first manuscript of the Divine Principle, having even one companion who followed me walking the same path was so precious. You too must experience the taste of such a close relationship. Every day when Kim Won-pil set out for work, I accompanied him for at least 1 kilometer without fail. Otherwise, I did not feel comfortable. When it was time for him to return home from work, I went out again to meet and accompany him on the way home. You have no idea how delighted I was to see him again at the end of each day. When we slept at night, we did not have comforters, only one thin blanket to cover ourselves. That's how we lived back then. So, we all know about, the beginning time, when they arrived to Busan and built the mud and cardboard shack out of the ration boxes, US ration boxes, and I'm sure many of us had the opportunity to go to Korea and see that original or the model of the original shack, still there, and can imagine, or start to imagine what it was like for Father and Won-pil Kim to live in such a place, and how Father was really happy to be able to have just one person who could walk the same path, and that was so precious. And he's mentioning, you too must experience the taste of such a close relationship. And I'm sure when we reflect on our own life, we can see times when we have had a close relationship like that, and so can understand. That's Father going out every morning when Won-pil Kim went out, walk with him for 1 kilometer, and then wait for him on his way back, and then walk together. This really showed how much Father really loved him. So I wrote a book about the principle, Wuli Wombong, at Myeongdong in Busan, overlooking the harbour. I first noted the main points in outline form and then started writing. I wrote the ideas in condensed form like poetry. Since I just wrote the essential points, people could not easily understand it unless I explained the main points to them. This is how I wrote the text, which I completed in May 1952. After Wuli Wombong came the explanation of the Divine Principle, Wuli Air Soul, and then exposition of the Divine Principle, Wuli Gengnon. And so Father is explaining that, he wrote the Woolly Wombong in like poetry, and so very condensed. And so there's a lot of meaning to every line and every word. And he wrote the essential points, and then saying that people could not easily understand it unless I explained the main points to them. This is how I wrote the text, which I completed in May 1952. I often used to think, how come the Woolly Wombong wasn't translated and used? It's because it's very hard for people to understand. And unless Father's there to explain each point, then I think people are confused. So it was never translated. It seemed like it was very hard for people to, who were Korean, to even understand it. And that's probably still the same today. It really needs true parents' guidance in understanding it. I did not discover the principle only from reading the Bible. I thought, if Genesis is the chapter on the human fall, the book of Revelation is the chapter on restoration. Since something went wrong with the tree of life, it must be restored through the tree of life. If it does not work that way, the Bible is misleading. Anything that comes from a seed returns to a seed. That is how it ought to happen. In a similar manner, the sprout from the seed grows upward and not sideways. It has to be this way. The principle that I am teaching you today is in accord with the history from the providential viewpoint. It is based on a deductive method. Without a doubt, God is alive. As long as God exists and leads the providence for the will centering on love, the world will have to enter the era of unity based on the cultural sphere of God's love. From this perspective, I disclosed why God created heaven and earth, how the creation of heaven and earth was carried out, and why God is love. And so, there's quite a bit in this small section here, how Father is explaining first about the Bible itself, that Father found the principle not by reading the Bible only. He saw the Bible as an understanding on the fall and the understanding on restoration, and that the Bible's purpose is to restore the tree of life. And then he says, if it does not work that way, the Bible is misleading. So that's these understanding of how the Bible helped guide the manner in which the principle was written and received. And so the principle that I'm teaching you today is in accord with the history of the providential viewpoint. It is based on a deductive method. Without a doubt, God is alive. So from observation and questioning, then he was able to figure out, the essence. And then also explain about God, that God is alive, and why God is love. That's an interesting understanding that he was able to receive. So he started to write the Woolly Wombong, and then from that perspective, I disclosed why God created heaven and earth, how the creation of heaven and earth was carried out, and why God is love. And so we can see in the divine principle that we have today that's definitely a strong essence of what it's about. So continuing, God comforts all sorrowful people. He is also the Lord who reigns over life, death, misfortune, and blessing. That is why human beings want to rely on him in any situation, especially when in difficult times. So when you have a heart to care about others, God will come even if you tell him not to. It is because in such a place you form a base upon which he can relate to you as his counterpart. That is why whenever you are doing something good, God will come to you even if you ask him not to. Wherever there is goodness, God is present. For this reason, in Woolly Wombong, the meaning of object partner and the value of the object partner are presented as entirely new concepts. Once you give and receive, you come to have a reciprocal relationship. The more you give and receive with your counterpart, the better the relationship you will cultivate. Hence, you will eventually become an object partner with him or her. For this reason, if your activity centers on God, goodness, or truth, it will surely last. So these Father is explaining the essence of the things that were written in the Woolly Wombong, is that understanding God, and also explaining the relationship that God has. So remember, it's written as poetry. It's written very close to the experience that Father lived, and so he experienced all of these relationships and emotions and understanding as God experienced them. And so after experienced them, then he explained to God that this is what it was like, and then God would confirm it. So as it says there, God comforts all sorrowful people, and that means all of us. I'm sure all of us have felt sorry at some time and sad about our circumstance, and any comfort we receive comes from God. And I'm sure Father felt God's comfort time and time again, especially as he walked this way, coming from North Korea and walking to Busan, and then struggling all that way, and then and that's just part of the sorrow he had to endure, seeing his people, and then recognizing God's heart, and says, well, he needs to carry out God's will so that the world can be restored. And so explaining that that is why human beings want to rely on him in any situation, especially when in difficult time. So when you have a heart to care about others, God will come even if you tell him not to. It is because in such a place you form a base upon which he can relate to you as his counterpart. And so that's a key thing. God relates to people who care for others, because that's the principle he discovered. He discovered that true love is living for the sake of others. And when we live for others, then God comes. And that's a principle. It's a law. It's something that can't be prevented. So even if you don't want God to come, he would come anyway, because you have the heart that God has. God has the heart to care, and when we care, then God is there. So we form a base upon which he can relate. That is why whenever you are doing something good, God will come to you even if you ask him not to. So do you remember the times when you've done good and the experience that you felt? Wherever there is goodness, God is present. For this reason, in Woolly Wombong, the meaning of object partner and the value of the object partner are presented as entirely new concepts. So, he's sharing how important it is to be the object partner of God, because we have the same value as God, as the object partner, receiving God's love so that we can give God's love. So once you give and receive, you come to have a reciprocal relationship. The more you give and receive with your counterpart, the better the relationship you will cultivate. Hence, you will eventually become an object partner with him or her. For this reason, if your activity centers on God, goodness, or truth, it will surely last. And so he's explaining the fundamental law of the give and receive. That's the reciprocal relationship. And if it's centered on God and goodness, then that is the relationship that God wishes to create, because we become that object partner to God's love. And that's what one of the essential things that's written in the divine principle is, that we are the object partner of God because we were created as God's children. And so Father is writing this and explaining that, and it's really a new idea. Even still today, it's new. This understanding that God needs us to be his object partner, and for us that we need our object partner, and that our purpose is to be God's object partner. Whenever you carry the divine principle book around with you, you must treat it with great reverence. Imagine if you had the only existing copy. Think about how serious I was to take care of Woolly Wombong when I was writing the first manuscript. What would have happened if that manuscript had been lost or I had died? I'm telling you that such seriousness can determine the life or death of the world. Have you ever considered that whether your tribe, your nation, the world, and even heaven and earth will prosper or perish depends upon this book and your attitude toward it? Have you ever considered that each individual's eternal life depends upon it? If you have never entertained such thoughts, you should realize how distant you are from the world of heart, and how long it will take for you to connect with those who are dwelling in that world. Wow. So that makes me think again about really treating the divine principle with a lot of reverence, and that it's so precious. I never, if Father had the only existing copy of it, the Woolly Wombong, and it's not like he could rewrite it. He received it and wrote it, and so if it was lost, how serious I was to take care of the Woolly Wombong when I was writing the first manuscript. Yeah, I don't think, to be honest, that I mean, reading this, I can sense and understand and recognize how much reverence I should have towards the principal book, and the words that are written down that truly explain, the whole process of life and death and purpose and love and the whole thing. But I must admit that I don't have that type of reverence that Father is explaining here. I recognize it's something precious, but not to that depth. And I think even still today, I don't have that deeper reverence as I should. I used to carry it around because we used to have a really small pocket, sort of like brown size little DP, and that was easy to carry. I remember carrying that, but then I don't have that copy anymore, and my Divine Principle just sits on the bookshelf, and to be honest, I don't take it off the shelf anymore. It just sort of sits there because I look up the Divine Principle because I have it as a digital copy. And so I look at that and read that instead of actually looking at the book. But I feel sorry that I don't have the reverence for it as Father is explaining here, and that desperation. What would have happened if that manuscript had been lost, or I had died? Father is saying, this is really serious. I'm telling you that such seriousness can determine the life or death of the world. Have you ever considered that whether your tribe, your nation, the world, and even heaven and earth will prosper or perish depends upon this book and your attitude toward it? Until reading this and again, I didn't really think about the whether the world would prosper or perish was dependent on the Divine Principle. But and because Father mentioned earlier that the Bible, he saw the beginning to be about the fall, and Revelation about the restoration, and then here the Divine Principle is the actual way in which the restoration through indemnity can be applied, and so it is the way in which to give life to the world. As it says, I'm telling you that such seriousness can determine the life or death of the world. And so the world fell into a state of death because of the fall of Adam and Eve, and it's because of our true parents and the Divine Principle that opens the gate to come back to life, and so my attitude toward it is that it is an essential truth that has to be revealed to everyone, and I need to understand it. We need to understand it deeply. So have you ever considered that each individual's eternal life depends upon it? If you have never entertained such thoughts, you should realize how distant you are from the world of heart, and how long it will take for you or me to connect with those who are dwelling in that world. So it really does depend on our relationship. The principle is explaining the relationship that we need to have for God to realize the object partner that was lost because of the fall, and that we are meant to become that object partner. And that's everyone. And so since we know the truth, this should really be giving us the seriousness to save everyone's life, and help them to understand the divine principle. And by having that understanding, then we can see God's heart. You should realize how distant you are from the world of heart, and how long it will take for you to connect with those who are dwelling in that world. So when I read that, I felt sorry that my understanding is still limited. Need to really experience God's heart, and the divine principle is something to do, not something to read. Like everything that is in the divine principle, Father has done and is modeling and is showing. And that's why he could cry a river of tears, because he understood the heart of God. And how distant are you from the world of heart? Still, I know I haven't cried a river of tears as father and mother both have. So centered on the principle, and with the principle, I have come this far. I laid its foundation with considerable hardship. I invested my blood, sweat, and tears while I was writing the Divine Principle book. Please understand that my bloody tears are embedded in each and every one of its pages, and that those tears are crying out to you. I invested my life and sacrificed my youth for the principle. That is why I am saying that my blood and tears are pleading to you from its very pages. You must never go against the principle. Do not ever think the principle I am teaching you is of no value. Even God solemnly bows down and honors it. Such is the value of the principle. Wow. So Father's really pouring out his heart for us to understand. This is a living testimony, this book, The Divine Principle. Sometimes when we read it, we need to understand that. I know we're reading the exposition of the Divine Principle, which is more ordered and logic, but Father is talking about the original Divine Principle, the original Woolly Wombong, which is written with Father's blood, sweat, and tears, and he invested his entire life and sacrificed his youth to give us the principle, to bring it here. And for us to never go against the principle, never not follow the guidance, because once we know it, we should apply it. And to apply it means to live it. And to live it means to practice living for the sake of others. And we should never think that it's of no value. Even God solemnly bows down and honors it. Such is the value of the principle. So because the principle is God, God used the principle to create everything, and God is fully in it. So the value of the principle is you could even say is the same value as God. And so, Father is really earnest for us, to go the way of the principle, which is the way of life. So the essence of truth. And so this is like halfway through this section 3, and it's broken up into 2 parts. God's authorization, and then it talks about the essence of the truth. And because it starts with some sort of background, this middle part also has a bit of a background. And it says here, the true Father emphasized that when he was writing Woolly Wombong, the original text of the divine principle, he had little choice but to write it in a condensed style rather than with extended descriptions and explanations, because he was presenting the essence of the truth. This text has a historic quality, enabling it to touch one's original heart and bring it to explode with the power of love. U Hyo Won, the first president of the Unification Church, had thoroughly explored the scriptures of various religions. However, he confessed that when he first read Woolly Wombong, he became so deeply immersed in the amazing world of its truth, weeping so profusely that it took him days to transcribe just 1 page. And so this is like the background of how important this truth is. So when I wrote Woolly Wombong, I wrote it in the condensed form. The content of even 1 page requires dozens of pages of explanation. An ordinary person is simply not able to understand it deeply, even after reading and reflecting on it. One day I asked U Hyo Won, who had studied medicine, to explain the principle, but he said he could not do so. So I explained just 1 page to him. Then, on the spot, he bowed down to me and said, I am sorry, I did not realize that the principle contains such a profound meaning. I could never have figured that out on my own. And so, that's another reason, Woolly Wombong is really so condensed. And when I used to ask Koreans, how come it's not translated, they always got the same sort of answer. It says it's just too hard. So I realize I'm using a lot of time here. I'll just go through, because there's 11. This is 9. After coming down to Hungnam to Busan, I started writing Woolly Wombong on May 11, 1951. I wrote it in a compact style. No one could understand it well, no matter how much they tried. So I explained it to U Hyo Won, and then his mind opened up. From then on, he shed tears on reading each page of the manuscript, so much so that it became a manuscript of tears. He would say, how on earth could there be such unbelievable contents? With this understanding, the fundamental teachings of Christianity and communism will be completely overshadowed. And so, this is, I'll just, explaining how amazing he found it. After President Yu Yong read Woolly Wombong, he pledged in writing that he would never be for it, that he would be, sorry, I'll read that again. After President Yu Hyo Won read Woolly Wombong, he pledged in writing that he would be forever grateful to God, even if his body should become a sacrificial offering in front of heaven. At the time I met Yu Hyo Won, I was walking a solitary path. His coming was truly the work of God. At that time, my heart was absolutely serious about the principle. Since I was so serious, God worked to bring him to me. God did this entirely for me. This is how I have been able to come this far. I guided and taught Yu Hyo Won in such a way that he was able to systematize the entire contents of the book into the form of the exposition of the divine principle. When I wrote Woolly Wombong, I sometimes made drastic jumps in logic and wrote the content in a condensed form. Yu Xiaowon was given a copy of the manuscript before he joined the church. As he read it, he cried and cried. I believe that he is the first person in our church's history who was so moved after reading the principle that he immediately wanted to become my disciple. This happened when he read Woolly Wombong, which was even before he ever met me in person. He wrote a letter to me with the vow, based on the words I read in Woolly Wombong, I will become your disciple and serve you for eternity. Moved by his letter, I traveled from Seoul to Yongdo Church in Busan and held a 21-day workshop in which he participated. I was told before the workshop that he was anxious, wondering what it would be like to meet me in person for the first time. But when he met me, he openly shared with me all of his past life, which was filled with many serious stories, some of which I still cannot forget even to this day. During the workshop in Yongdo, all the participants had spiritual experiences. So after the workshop, they felt so transformed that when they returned to the reality of their everyday lives, they marveled. I just experienced a completely different world, which I never imagined could exist. And so it's a transformation. That's the end of actually that small section that's in the Chomju Mogon Jong. So thank you and God bless. And you can sense Father's heart, God's heart, and the complexity of the manuscript, and why even today it's because it's like a book of poetry, and so much is in it, and it's mixed with Korean and Chinese characters, and really need God's guidance to understand it. So thank you. I'll just stop sharing there. It's quite something. So if there's anyone wants to make a comment, please do. Yeah. Oops. Yes, Chris, go ahead.
Yeah, I'll just make a quick comment. I think, when we joined, I remember everything was so hot, everybody's and I remember one member had a chewed up toothpick glued into their diary of one of the elders that had come and passed through. And we had that really beautiful, simple, childish belief that everything was holy, and we have to be careful as we go along. Intellect gets involved, we develop our faith, and we really have to remember, it seems silly, but actually that's where God is. And Jesus talked about it, right? Just having this childlike mind of the purity and beauty of everything that we had in the beginning. And it's good to sort of not think that's a bad thing, it really enables us to connect that way. Anyway, thank you.
Yeah, that's true. Thank you, Chris. Yeah. Yes, Susan, go ahead.
Yeah, when you were talking about having your little brown divine principle book, I've always thought that if there was ever a fire in my house, that would be the first book, the one thing that I would absolutely want to take with me. But it's not so much because it's the divine principle book, but because it's signed by many of the elder Korean leaders. So it's, maybe I have to change my thinking about why I have to feel that book is so precious, not so much because of the signatures that are in there, but because of what it is itself. So thank you very much for this morning.
Yeah, thank you. Yes, Greg, go ahead.
Yeah, thank you, Reverend John, for that beautiful reading this morning. I actually read Divine Principle every day, just a little bit, and I'll just go through it. And I find, of course, I've read it many times, but every time I read something, I think I'm kind of amazed at just how relevant it is to today, and some of the things it says, it's sort of thinking, I think, well, how perfect is that, How amazing is that is that description of Christianity, or that, you know what I mean? So anyway, I think maybe Reverend you or True Father is is trying to inspire us, something like that. But it's an absolutely amazing writing, incredible writing. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah. Yeah, and that's the divine principle, and we've now got the next installment with True Parents Principle that keeps adding the next deeper understanding. Yeah. So, yes, Jeff, go ahead.
I guess it depends a lot on ourselves, our sort of, you could say purity of our heart, really, or something that perceives things. I always sort of think about, even when you pray for people to sort of stir the soil of their spirit so they can receive, even the name itself, divine principle, even the name, it's just incredible. A divine principle. Yeah, anyway, it's amazing. I think a lot of us might be tired this morning. We had an amazing experience last night and early this morning. It was just incredible, that great works. It was really amazing what is happening, developing our ability to make beautiful things. The ladies singing, and Liki Summer with this amazing uniform, reading out the scroll. I mean, this is really, anyway, and much more to come. So anyway, thank you, John. Thank you, everybody. God bless you.
Thank you. Thank you, Jeff. Thank you, everyone. Yeah, that was a beautiful, I agree. And we have our beautiful closing prayer, as you could say. It's time for us to pray together. So I'll just bring up the screen, and let's pray our unison prayer. Thank you. Jew. Thank you, everyone. I hope you have a great day and have a good rest. And see you all again tomorrow. Okay.
Thank you.